thanksgiving to Almighty God for His manifold blessings to us as a nation. The year that has just passed has been marked by His gracious providence. We have seen the completion of a great work at the Isthmus of Panama. Righteousness exalteth the nation, and peace on earth, goodwill toward men, furnish the only foundation upon which can be built the lasting achievements of the human spirit.
This has been an American Minute with Bill Federer. For a free transcript, call American Minute at 1-888-USA-WORD.
VCY America presents Crosstalk, a nationwide call-in program discussing issues that have an effect on our families, our communities, our churches, our nation, and our world. Crosstalk, an opportunity for you to voice your concerns for biblical principles. And now live by satellite and around the world on the internet at vcyamerica.org. Here is today's Crosstalk.
And we welcome you to Crosstalk here on VCY America. It's a news roundup day today. Now, some are saying, hey, it's not Friday, Jim, check your calendar. Well, indeed, it is not Friday, but every now and then we do have to make an adjustment to our schedule, and this is such a week. In that tomorrow is United Nations Day, and right now scheduled to join us tomorrow is Alex Newman, and focusing in on the UN and really a targeted attack against homeschooling. So we do encourage you to tune us in tomorrow and listen as well for this interview with Alex Newman. As a result, we do want to get a news roundup in today as there's much that's been unfolding, and so we will bring this news roundup to your attention here today. I would like to begin with a verse of Scripture from Jeremiah 17:7, because so often as we enter these news roundups, and we do not want you to turn to despair. That is not the goal of the news roundup at all. It's certainly to make us aware, to be understanding of the times. We don't live in ignorance as to the times in which we live, but it ought to motivate us to be more in fervent prayer for our nation and our world and for national leaders. It ought to motivate us to spread the good news of the gospel to a world that is in great need. And so, therefore, we bring you these news roundups. We want to be understanding of the times as we move forward here with knowledge as to what is taking place, but also to burden our hearts even in a greater way. But let me use this as an underlying verse for us today from Jeremiah 17, verse 7. Blessed is the man that trusteth in the Lord, and whose hope the Lord is. Our hope is truly in God. Friends, I do want to thank you for those who are participating in our Central Asia project. Just a quick update on this. As of just the other day, I think this was just day before yesterday, over $28,000 has come in. I believe we're right about $29,000 has come in so far. A check of $15,000 already sent off. We will soon be sending off, Lord willing, perhaps even before the end of the week, another check to support this Central Asia missionary project, which we spoke of. And just a reminder, if you were wanting to be involved with others in the special project that we launched on Crosstalk, you have through November the 8th. So that time is coming up, and we would just encourage you to do so. Make sure that you designate your gift accordingly for the Central Asia project. Some troubling news and heartbreaking news as we begin our program today, and this was a a news story that came out from the Western Journal, and that is Illinois gubernatorial candidate Darren Bailey lost multiple family members yesterday in a helicopter crash in Montana. His daughter, son-in-law, two of their children killed when the helicopter went down. There was a statement on the candidate's website this morning, and it said on Wednesday evening, Darren and his wife Cindy received the heartbreaking news that no parent ever wants to hear. Their son Zachary, his wife Kelsey, their two young children, Veda Rose, age 12, and Samuel, age 7, tragically lost their lives in a helicopter accident in Montana. They mentioned their other grandson, age 10, Finn, was not on the helicopter, is safe, but his campaign added, Darren and Cindy are heartbroken by this unimaginable loss. They are finding comfort in their faith, their family, and the prayers of so many who love and care for them. And so, friends, I just bring this to your attention to be praying for the Bailey family amongst this very tragic loss. Certainly, we're watching what's happening in our government. The shutdown has taken place, and just days ago, Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin introduced what was called the Shutdown Fairness Act to ensure the hard-working Americans are paid during the government shutdowns. The legislation would appropriate funds for pay and allowances of accepted federal employees for periods of work performed during a lapse in appropriations and for other purposes. And it's being reported now by the Daily Signal that Senate Democrats once again now have blocked paying essential federal workers as the government shutdown continues. The vote today, this is Senator Ron Johnson's bill, again, to pay essential federal workers, including active duty members of the military. Well, it failed to clear the Senate's 60-vote threshold to become law. The vote was 54 to 45. Virtually every Democrat voting in opposition to this. Senator John Fetterman is one who crossed party lines to vote in favor of this, and he posted on social media, he said, "Shut our government down and America loses. 2 million Pennsylvanians depend on SNAP to feed their families. For me, it's hungry Americans over party. Paying our military over party. Paying Capitol Police and federal workers over party. I choose country over party." That's a statement being made by Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania. From Just the News, Senate Democrats voted Wednesday for the 12th time to block the House-passed version. Again, this is a clean resolution just to keep the government funded as it has been while the appropriations bills get worked out. The vote, this failed vote again to open the government, falling on the hands of Democrats. And even Democratic Senator Jeff Merkley, nearly 23 hours long, he filibustered on the House floor, speaking in protest of Donald Trump's second term in office. But friends, it was an election. He won the popular vote. He won the electoral vote as well. And here he is, making this long speech and keeping the government shut down because he's protesting what the American people decided this past November. NewsNationNow.com reporting that in the midst of the shutdown, the U.S. government's gross national debt, even as climbing, has surpassed $38 trillion. This is a record number that highlights the accelerating accumulation of debt on America's balance sheet. There are so many that want to bring this, the annual deficits down and get us to a balanced budget. Right now, that's totally impossible to reduce that spending. And we understand President Trump taking some decisive cuts in personnel and programs. From the Daily Signal, Republican senators were relieved when President Trump urged them to remain steadfast in refusing to negotiate until they vote to reopen the government. This is Senator Steve Danis. He said that the president encouraged us to remain steadfast. We cheered when he said that. We just need the Democrats to come to their senses and realize that they've got to start paying the troops, the FAA controllers, the TSA agents, and others who depend on the federal government. And when asked if President Trump indicated that Republicans would need to cave to Democrats' demands to pass the continuing resolution, he said, "You don't negotiate with those that take the government hostage." From the Washington Stand, congressional Democrats claim that the refusal to end the government shutdown, unless President Trump and Capitol Hill Republicans agree to make permanent Obamacare's temporary COVID-related tax credits, is intended to protect the health care coverage of millions of low and middle-income Americans. But an analysis by the Washington Stand of campaign contributions data compiled by OpenSecrets.org shields a healthcare industry, a healthcare insurance industry that gives hundreds of millions of dollars in campaign contributions to Democratic incumbents, challengers, committees, and PACs. The Biden COVID credits are paid directly to health insurance companies from the U.S. Treasury. Since the funds do not go to the individuals, millions of people have been fraudulently enrolled and often do not even know that they've been signed up. About 40% of the people who are fully subsidized by Biden's COVID credits did not make a single claim for a medical procedure or medication in the year 2024. From Just the News, a coalition of over 100 pro-life groups sent a letter to Republican members of Congress praising them for not agreeing to Democrat demands to include an extension of health care subsidies as a condition for reopening. The letter claimed that ending funding for Obamacare is forced taxpayer funding of abortion, unless specified that it would exclude elective abortions. The letter also urged that the abortion section of the Affordable Care Act, which is hundreds of pages long, says funding is appropriated by the Treasury Department instead of through Labor, Health, and Human Services spending bill. Thereby it's circumventing the Hyde Amendment, which is renewed each year as an attachment to the spending bill. From the Washington Times, President Trump is directing the U.S. Department of Agriculture to free up billions of dollars in farmer aid frozen by the government shutdown. The Ag Secretary, Brooke Rollins, said that her department today will reopen Farm Service Agency offices where farmers process loans which protect against sudden revenue losses. The USDA will resume Farm Service Agency core operations, including critical services for farm loan processing. Over $3 billion in assistance farmers have counted on in their business planning decisions. She said the checks would help farmers deliver payments for heavy equipment or rent for their land. They are not able to make those without these checks coming in, Rollins said. U.S. farmers are a key block of political support for President Trump. Nearly 78% of voters in America's most farming-dependent counties supported him in last year's election. They are facing tough times. Fertilizer costs have been on the increase, equipment costs, and partly due to the tariffs. While crop prices are down, China refuses to buy American soybeans after making large purchases in the last year. Farmers upset to see China buying soybeans from Argentina. And then we also have President Trump proposing buying beef from Argentina. Friends, there is much need. The war on our food supply does continue. I want you to hear this clip. This is very interesting. This is U.S. Representative Catherine Clark, the House Minority Whip, and she told Fox News that Democrats understand American families are suffering due to the ongoing shutdown of the federal government. But she explains that it's one of the leverages that they have.
I mean, shutdowns are terrible. And of course, there will be, families that are going to suffer. We take that responsibility very seriously. But it is one of the few leveraged times we have.
We're going to inflict this pain, but it's one of the few leverages that we have? Really? Also, we have Speaker Johnson, and we're going to transition now to the No Kings rally. And some of the things that he had to say, he dismissed this as a stunt during a Sunday appearance on This Week, saying they're taking place prove that President Donald Trump was not a king. Here's Speaker Johnson.
I'm joined now by the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, right here in the studio. Speaker Johnson, thank you for joining us.
Glad to be with you. Thanks.
So let's start with the No Kings rallies. You called these Hate America rallies. What do you mean by that?
Well, that collection of folks that I listed were certainly part of it. We congratulate them on a apparently violent free speech exercise. I was a First Amendment lawyer for 20 years. We defend that right. But the irony of the message is pretty clear for everyone. If President Trump was a king, the government would be open right now. If President Trump was a king, they would not have been able to engage in that free speech exercise out on the mall, by the way, which was open because President Trump hasn't closed it. In the last shutdown, 2013 era, President Obama closed the National Mall. It closed all the national parks, didn't allow people to engage in all this. So, I mean, they needed a stunt. They needed a show. Chuck Schumer needs cover right now. He's closed the government down because he needs political cover, and this was a part of it. And
friends, in the next segment, we're going to share some of the clips, interviews made with people in the No Kings rally crowds. And speaking of crowds, there's some of them are calling it the biggest fraud in American history. As a Geller report reports that MSNBC falsely aired a video from 2017 claiming it was live coverage from the No Kings rally in Boston and wanting to portray this large turnout. Come to find out, they said there were many old, white, and retired individuals that were participating in this. We'll have more to share after the break. This is Crosstalk.
Back to Genesis with Dr. John Morris, scientist with the Institute for Creation Research. Dr. Morris, what kind of life lives in the deep ocean?
Chris, we're just now beginning to explore the deep ocean. Recently, a very exotic form of life was discovered around seafloor vents, where superheated water bubbles out from the interior of the Earth into the cold oceans. There's no light down there, but submarines have discovered much life around these vents. Evolutionists are quick to point out that this must be the kind of life that was the original life billions of years ago. But not so fast. Recent research projects have shown that these pods of life around the seafloor vents are not old in any sense. They may be only a few thousand years old, not billions as required by evolution. And they certainly didn't spring to life from non-living chemicals. If it's living, God created it, and he did so back in Genesis.
Thanks, Dr. John. For more information, visit us on the web at icr.org. I'm Chris O'Brien. Thanks for tuning in.
Well, we've got a news roundup Thursday today on Crosstalk, and that again tomorrow being United Nations Day. Alex Newman will be joining us, and again specifically looking at the UN targeting homeschooling. And so we do encourage you to join us tomorrow afternoon at this time here on the VCY American Network. Talking about the government shutdown that's going on, and then also the No Kings rallies taking place. The Geller report also indicating that George Soros is writing the checks behind the No Kings rallies and countless other groups or who engage in or facilitate riots and political violence, saying it's time to hold the financiers of political violence accountable. And there is something called the Stop Funders Act. Senator Ted Cruz has announced a bill that would ban foreign billionaires like George Soros from secretly financing activist rallies, including the recent No Kings rally. Under the proposal, this type of funding would be treated as a RICO crime. Racketeering and influencing. It's called the Funders Act. It stands for Financial Underwriting of Nefarious Demonstrations and Extremist Riots. It would amend our code, meaning that entities or individuals who fund or coordinate violent interstate riots could be prosecuted under RICO, enabling tools like conspiracy charges, asset forfeiture, enhanced penalties, joint liability, etc. The bill also aims to deter misuse of nonprofit status or hidden funding pipelines backing these violent protests, and then goes through to list a number of the No Kings financiers, like Warren Buffett and Ford, Rockefeller, Soros, Tides, and others. Christian Post reporting 2 pastors who lead churches in Texas' second largest city are condemning vandalism directed at their houses of worship that occurred as opponents of the Trump administration held protest. Pastor Ed Newton of Community Bible Church in San Antonio shared pictures of vandalism sustained by his church among the protests, and phrases like "Jesus wants Trump gone" and "Love thy neighbor" spray painted onto the exterior walls of the church. "No king but God" spray painted on the sidewalk. Instagram post on Sunday, also Pastor Bill Cornelius of Church Unlimited, Stone Oak, also described this as being so disappointed to see sidewalks in front of the church deface as well. Vandalism is not protesting, it's a crime, he insisted. Well, there are so many of these audio clips that are available of protesters, those who went out there to talk to those who are protesting. Folks, some of these people had no clue while they were there. So I'm guessing that only some were receiving a paycheck to be there. But this article here from Daily Caller, some of the No Kings protesters could not even name a reason why they were protesting against President Trump. One woman just went silent as she tried to come up with the main reason why she was out there and why she was protesting. Listen in here to this from the Daily Caller.
No King's Day.
And why specifically are you out supporting No King's Day?
I think protest is important.
Why are you protesting?
How much time do you have?
A couple minutes. And what's the main reason you're out here protesting President Trump?
I don't agree with a lot of the decisions that are being made.
Is there any decision in particular you disagree with?
Okay, so I would start with, well, I don't even think it's appropriate for me to have this interview.
No, I can't think of anything. I don't think it's appropriate for me to do this interview. Oh, interesting. Well, thousands of people, most of them over the age of 60, reports the Daily Signal hit the streets in Washington, D.C. this past Saturday. And the Daily Signal team took to the opportunity to get some fresh air and interview a few of them. This one, rather troubling. Listen in.
Something that I've heard in interviewing Republicans is that they're concerned with the health care going to undocumented immigrants. What would you say about that?
I don't know that it's true. Everybody deserves health care, and we can certainly afford it in this country. So again, they're just, they're pointing to things and saying it's our fault, we're too liberal. Yeah, it's really depressing. I don't know how anybody your age even thinks of having children, okay? Okay, millions of Democrats did not vote. Whose fault is that? We need to get ourselves together, and we might even need to be a little bit meaner, because the Republicans don't mind being mean.
And by mean, what do you mean? Do you mean protesting? Do you mean...
Maybe we have to, stop being so nice.
Because you seem like a pretty nice lady.
I'm a pretty nice lady, but I can be pretty mean, too.
Okay, and I have to ask this because people on the other side are going to say that they feel like the Democrat Party has been mean. Recently, with Charlie Kirk being assassinated,
He's a piece of garbage. Of course we were mean. I am so tired of people saying, oh, but, it's a terrible thing. No, Hitler is dead. I'm glad Hitler's dead. Evil people have no place in my world. He was a hateful human being. It was disgusting, the things that he said and did. I don't have time for that. I'm sorry. I have to point my energy in other directions.
Isn't that troubling, friends? Disgusting about the things evil. Hitler's dead. And by the things he said and did. Charlie Kirk was not there with weapons in hand. He was there with a microphone in his hand and giving an open mic for people to come in and challenge. Very interesting indeed, but this gives you an idea of the mentality that is out in this world. Friends, can I quote again from Jeremiah 17:7? Blessed is the man that trusteth in the Lord and whose hope the Lord is. The story that comes from the Western Journal is that fear of crossing progressives is keeping moderate Democrats from supporting Republican measures to reopen the federal government, according to a news report. One Democratic senator whose name was withheld said people are going to get hammered if they side with Republicans. We wouldn't have enough votes to end the shutdown if people were not terrified of getting the guillotine, one source said. Well, let's take a look at this matter of we need to get mean. We've got to get mean. Well, the left is no longer, this is now from Western Journal, the left is no longer making it an effort to hide their violent tendencies, even when their politicians are on national TV. On Wednesday, just yesterday, Texas State Democratic Representative Jolanda Jones, who's running for a House seat in the 2026 midterms, made an appearance on CNN where she spoke to Aaron Burnett about the strategy to deal with Republicans and President Donald Trump. One moment posted to the social media platform X showed Jones discussing how she would respond to any bully from the GOP. Listen in.
I'm from the hood, okay? So when a bully comes, if there are no rules, you literally have to figure it out. So Donald Trump has changed things, and people trying to do what's always been done is not going to work. And I think that's why Democrats are losing black people. That's why they're losing poor people, because poor people, all they want is for us to fight. So if you hit me in my face, I'm not going to punch you back in your face. I'm going to go across your neck, because we can go back and forth fighting each other's faces. You've got to hit hard enough where they won't come back. And so, for the same way I went to New York and spoke with Governor Kathy Hochul and said, if they're going to try to wipe us out in Texas, we need to wipe out every Republican in New York, in California, in Illinois. So no one can make me feel bad about fighting for the people that I represent, because the people that I represent need someone who's willing to go in the ring and fight for them, and that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Now, friends, it's important that you would see the visual, though, as she said, you hit me in the face, we're going to go across your neck, and she makes a slitting motion with her finger across her neck, okay, such as in, decapitation. Hit me in the face, will go across your neck. Isn't that what Usama has told us? To strike their necks from Islam? Do not take the infidel as your friend, rather to strike their necks? We know what that's all about. We need to hit hard enough, she said, where they won't come back. Blessed is a man that trusteth in the Lord, and whose hope the Lord is. Let's go on to another story here today from the Washington Times. Chinese government-linked entities are using the ChatGPT chatbot. Now, friends, we just talked about this yesterday. AI, artificial intelligence, well, they're using ChatGPT chatbot to promote and protect the autocratic communist system, according to a new report from OpenAI, which now owns ChatGPT. The report states that Beijing is making real progress in advancing a communist, ideologically infused artificial intelligence, and an unspecified number of ChatGPT accounts linked to see that the Chinese government were blocked from misusing the chatbot. Chinese authorities require all AI to promote core socialist values. That's a euphemism for communism. Have to promote core socialist values. Now, friends, sometimes people will say, oh, I checked and ChatGPT says this. Friends, you can't take it as gospel truth. WND.com is reporting Democratic New York City mayor frontrunner Zohran Mamdani appeared arm in arm last Friday with a Muslim cleric linked to the architects of the 93 World Trade Center bombing and other terror plots. Prosecutors had named Imam Siraj Wahaj, who previously called for an Islamic State in America, among dozens who would be alleged to be co-conspirators in a trial of several men convicted of playing a terrorism campaign, which included the 1993 World Trade Center attack. The attack killed 6 people, injured more than 1,000 others. Despite Wahaj's history, Mamdani visited his Brooklyn-based mosque and described Wahaj as a pillar of the community. The Center Square reporting that these 3 top candidates in New York City mayor's race clashed last night in a fiery second debate. Early voting set to get underway this weekend. Mamdani is representing the Democratic ticket. There's Andrew Cuomo, that's independent. And then the Republican Curtis Sliwa as well. Sliwa, and who is launched into blistering attacks last evening. Mamdani was grilled about his support for Jewish New Yorkers after a letter signed by 650 rabbis this week claimed that he is a threat to the city's Jewish community. Cuomo cited a letter and accused Mamdani of stoking the flames of hatred against Jews. Also, he was approached last night about his support of global jihad on Jewish people. And he would not, throughout his campaign, would not condemn the words about stopping a global intifada. Let's see, Washington Times also reporting that Mamdani, whose agenda calls for free daycare, free bus rides, government-run grocery stores, raising taxes on millionaires to pay for it, said the city's residential property taxes are inequitable. Homeowners living in neighborhoods populated by minorities pay too much in property taxes, he said, and those living in wealthier, whiter neighborhoods don't pay enough. He claims to end the city's unbalanced property tax system. The mayor can fix this by pushing class assessment percentages down for everyone and adjusting rates up. Curtis Sliwa said Mamdani's plan to tax people based on skin color isn't just wrong, it's racism, pure and simple. And then we also have these important races. Again, we remind those of you in places like New York City, and we know New Jersey has a critical governor's race, the state of Virginia, a critical governor and attorney general race, and other elections taking place. Pennsylvania also dealing with your Supreme Court justices in the state. And friends, we're less than 2 weeks away from this election, which is taking place on Tuesday, November 4th. I hope you're plugged in to what's happening in your state. We'll be back in just a minute. You're listening to Crosstalk on the VCY American Network.
When the government uses COVID-19 edicts to restrict the gathering of the church, 3 pastors face the risk of imprisonment and fines while courageously reopening their churches in a world filled with chaos and fear. The Essential Church documentary tells the true stories of 3 churches during 2020 lockdowns. Follow their journey as they take a stand in defiance of the government using scientific, legal, and biblical perspectives to uphold their positions. The Essential Church is available on DVD for a donation of $12, or the Essential Church set for a donation of $20. The set includes Blu-ray and a DVD, along with multiple bonus features including extended interview excerpts, teasers, trailers, and more. The set also comes with a companion 70-page full-color hardcover book, taking you behind the scenes of making this movie. Call VCY 1-800-729-9829.
We're grateful to Sandy for putting so many of these stories together for us here today and preparing them for broadcast. Friends, it's a news roundup day here today due to the fact that tomorrow we will be having special guest Alex Newman with us for the Friday broadcast of Crosstalk. Remind you of the verse from Jeremiah 17:7, "Blessed is the man that trusteth in the Lord, and whose hope the Lord is." As we continue on with our news roundup for today, just another dealing with the election, dailysignal.com telling us that former President Barack Obama plans to sweep into Virginia to buttress the gubernatorial campaign of Abigail Spanbauer, as polls show a tightening race there. She announced Tuesday morning that Obama would join her in Norfolk, Virginia for a rally on November 1st, just 3 days before the election. Townhall.com telling us that former Senator John Sununu, New Hampshire, announced on Wednesday he is seeking to win back his Senate seat after being ousted by current Senator Jeanne Shaheen. He announced his intention to run in a video saying someone has to step up and lower the temperature. Somebody has got to get things done. From the Free Beacon, Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas Wednesday instructed the DHS to conduct an immediate security review of all visas granted by the Biden administration following last week's indictment of an alleged Hamas terrorist living in Louisiana on a fraudulent visa. He disclosed in his letter to the Secretary of Homeland Security that there could potentially be thousands more terror-tied individuals living in the U.S. as a result of the Biden administration's failure to properly vet immigrants from the Middle East. Also, another tragedy taking place, this time in California. WND.com has a story. The driver in a deadly big rig that killed 3 in a crash in California had been caught sneaking into the U.S. illegally in 2022, but then released under Biden's open borders policies and practices. A report from Fox News cites federal law enforcement sources revealing that Jashapreet Singh encountered Border Patrol agents in the El Centro sector in California in March of 22. Then he was released into the interior of the country as per Biden's practices pending an immigration hearing. The driver is now suspected, I guess he got the CDL, and now is suspected of killing 3 people in a DUI crash on the Highway 10 freeway in Ontario, California. Now in custody in San Bernardino County, where ICE officials have placed a detainer on him. Okay, so let's go now to JNS.org. The Hamas terrorist organization, through the International Committee of the Red Cross, Tuesday evening returned the remains of 2 more slain Israeli hostages that had been held in the Gaza. After being handed over to Israeli forces by a Red Cross team inside the Strip, the bodies were transferred, to the Jewish state and received a military ceremony. That's according to the Prime Minister's office. YNetNews.com, a new international command center, is operating with troops from the U.S., UK, Jordan, and the UAE. We've had Vice President Vance over in the country. And, matter of fact, let me just share a statement as he made not long after being in the nation of Israel.
And as a Christian, I think the world's Christians will know that this country, that this region of the world means a great deal to me. And at some point today, I hope to go, or at some point in the next couple of days, I should say, I hope to go to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which Christians believe is the site that Jesus Christ was crucified in. And I know that Christians have many titles for Jesus Christ, and one of them is the Prince of Peace. And I'd ask all people of faith, in particular my fellow Christians, to pray that the Prince of Peace can continue to work a miracle in this region of the world. I think that we have made incredible strides over the past week. We're going to have to make a lot more, but I think with your prayers, with God's providence, and with a very good team behind me, I think we're going to get it done. Thank you all. Take care.
Vice President Vance speaking in Israel. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, is over there right now as well, and the Knesset passed two bills advancing the annexation of territories in Judea and Samaria. That's over the opposition of the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And Marco Rubio, warned that the action could be threatening to the peace deal. One of the bills approved Wednesday called for the application of sovereignty to all Jewish settlements in Judea and Samaria. The bills passed narrowly and over the opposition of the Prime Minister and the Likud party. Wanted to avoid offending the United States of America. As remember, we played the clip earlier on Crosstalk. President Trump said that he's not going to allow for the annexation of Judea and Samaria. Jihad Watch reporting that Hamas is redeployed across most of Gaza again and using schools and hospitals to hide jihad terror activities. Hamas rapidly regrouping, full support of many Palestinians who are now resuming their resistance against Israel from the river to the sea, just as has been expected. Worthy News is reporting that Hamas has refused to commit to disarming under the U.S. and Israeli ceasefire. Senior Hamas Politburo member Mohammed Nazal said the group would not surrender its weapons, but was open to a temporary truce lasting 3 to 5 years to allow reconstruction of the war-torn enclave. And also, Canada's Prime Minister announcing that, yes, indeed, he would arrest the Prime Minister of Israel should he appear on Canadian soil. This is the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, affirmed this yesterday in a podcast with the British journalist Michelle Hussein. Here's what he had to say.
And you're going to have to keep up the pressure on the Israeli government. Justin Trudeau said that Canada would honor the International Criminal Court arrest warrants, i.e. Benjamin Netanyahu would be arrested if he came to Canada. Does that stand under your leadership?
Yes.
You'd be prepared to do that?
Yes.
The Prime Minister of Canada, and that would be Prime Minister Carney. Let's go now to worthynews.com. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, on Monday dismissed U.S. President Donald Trump's claims that the American airstrikes had wiped out Iran's nuclear industry, telling the president to keep dreaming. He said, what business does America have interfering in whether Iran has nuclear facilities or not? These interventions are illegitimate, wrong, and arrogant. And we understand President Trump's meeting with Vladimir Putin has been put on hold. Secretary of State Rubio spoke with the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on Monday ahead of this expected meeting in Budapest, Hungary, but that is no longer on the table. Daily Signal reporting a Russian drone strike struck a kindergarten in Ukraine on Wednesday, killing at least one person, injuring others. Firefighters working rapidly to put out the blaze caused by the explosion and evacuate about 50 children from the scene. Townhall.com, U.S. Department of Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control has imposed further sanction now as a result of Russia's lack of serious commitment to the peace process. And they are targeting two of the largest oil companies, Open Joint Stock Company, Rosneft Oil Company, and Lukoil, OAO, in these sanctions. Let's see. A deal has been struck with the Australian Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, on rare earth minerals between them and the U.S. This is about a multi-billion-dollar deal. And also here from Fox News, the U.S. wants to fast-track outfitting Australia with nuclear subs under the trilateral agreement between the U.S., Australia, and the U.K. beef up Australia's submarine force aimed at countering Chinese influence in the Indo-Pacific. Let me hit a couple other stories here today. This is troubling from California, lifenews.com. California now allows doctors to prescribe abortion pills without revealing their names, thanks to a new law that Governor Newsom signed at the end of last month. The law protects doctors and pharmacists in California who send these deadly drugs through the mail to women in states where abortion is restricted. Under the policy, pharmacists can remove the patient's name, the physician's name, and pharmacy from the prescription label to make it more difficult for abortion pill traffickers to be identified. Washington Times, pro-life groups rejoice when Dr. Warren Hearn retired after 50 years of performing late-term abortions in Boulder. But that rejoicing has turned to sorrow because there is a new entity, a new Colorado clinic now offering third trimester abortions for, quote, any reason you have. Christian Post reporting nearly 1 in 5 churchgoers have paid for, encouraged, or chosen to have an abortion themselves, according to a new report. Family Research Council, in conjunction with the Cultural Research Center at Arizona Christian University, released a survey examining the views of American churchgoers. Based on 1,003 responses, 19% of respondents answered in the affirmative when asked if they had paid for, encouraged, or chosen to have an abortion. LifeNews.com reporting Planned Parenthood's abortion empire continued its downward spiral as the abortion organization announced the closure of 7 centers in California. This now shutters across the country some 50 centers, highlights the mounting financial toll of federal defunding efforts championed by pro-life advocates. Planned Parenthood clearly relies on our tax dollars to prop up the abortion business. Let's only hope and pray that this one-year moratorium gets extended year after year after year. LiveAction.org reporting that Grok's companion chatbot is referring children to Planned Parenthood. Its chatbot called Good Rudy claims to be for children ages 4 to 7. It asks when questions about pregnancy and abortion, presents abortion as something simple, pain-free, and will tell users where to find the pills online when asked. FoxNews.com, more data is emerging supporting a sharp decline in the number of young adults identifying as transgender and non-binary. Last week, Fox News Digital reported on data shared by Eric Kaufman, a professor of politics at University of Buckingham, showing that the share of college students identifying as anything other than male or female has been cut in half in just 2 years. And very interesting indeed. It looks like many are coming against a decline in trans ID among 18 to 22-year-olds. I was cautious about drawing conclusions from it as the decline appeared only in a limited time period. That was July to September of 2024, says a professor, and looking at other studies as well. But the number of young adults identifying plunging by nearly half in the last couple of years. Governor Newsom added again, LifeSiteNews.com reporting that Governor Newsom has signed a bill last week that requires schools to advertise an LGBT hotline for gender-confused kids on their student ID. This was AB 727, signed into law earlier in October, requires all of the state's middle schools, high schools, and colleges to print the phone number for the Trevor Project, a radical LGBT organization, and this would be right on the student ID. Okay, ResistTheMainstream.com reports a federal judge has dealt a significant blow to Secretary of War Pete Hegseth's education policies, ruling that his order to remove books from military school libraries violated constitutional rights. The ACLU's legal challenge to this directive has prompted Biden-appointed judge to determine that the book removal order infringed upon First Amendment rights. And did you see the decision from the Minnesota Supreme Court? From JustTheNews.com, Minnesota Supreme Court ruled that a biological male transgender athlete was discriminated against by USA Powerlifting when the organization did not allow that person into a women's competition in the year 2018. Friends, we've got to take a break, but I'd like to open our phone lines if you'd like to comment on these or other current event stories. Our phone number to Crosstalk today, 800-733-9829. That's 800-733-9829. 9829. A news roundup Thursday today in anticipation of Alex Newman being with us tomorrow on the broadcast. Back in a minute here on Crosstalk. The number 800-733-9829.
For the Worldview Report, I'm Brandon House. Our website's worldviewtube.com. Sadly, replacement theology is running rampant through Christian circles all around the world. It's the belief that God is done with the nation of Israel. And yet we know the Bible tells us that his mercies to them are irrevocable. He will finish his plan with them. But yet, many reject that. They say the church has replaced Israel. No, that's not in the Bible. And in fact, did you know that in the New Jerusalem that comes down out of heaven, as described in Revelation chapter 21, it says that the walls of the 12 gate towers that are in the walls around the New Jerusalem, that are part of the new heaven and the new earth, have the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. And then it goes on to say that the 12 foundations have the names of the 12 apostles who gave us the foundation of the church. Here you see God's distinct program for the Jews who become believers and the church. God's word is true.
This whole matter of violence just creeping up and getting more intensified, and we heard the Democratic legislator, putting their finger across their throat like in a slitting motion. And what's interesting, too, this week, the Epoch Times reporting, you've heard the story about the Secret Service confirming a hunting stand with a line of sight to Air Force One area found near the Palm Beach airport before President Trump was set to arrive. We also had the incident of a car ramming into the White House barricade. The suspect arrested. That was on Tuesday night of this week. And then we have President Gustavo Petro of Colombia closed out his lengthy Univision interview with what could be reasonably interpreted as a not-so-veiled threat against President Trump, challenged to negotiate with Trump. He said that humanity's solution was to get rid of him if he doesn't change. Well, let's take your phone calls today. Our number 800-733-9829. Our call-in number today, let's go to Greg in Bloomington, Illinois. Greg, you're on the air.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Jim. Well, here we go again. Notice the price of gas has gone down significantly. The price of eggs has gone down significantly. A lot of things have gone down, but the price of beef has gone up. And, of course, the left wing is blaming President Trump for that. Well, it seems to me like we're in the typical left-wing agenda here. The climate change that the left wing likes to claim is happening is they imagine this problem of climate change. It's really not a problem.
Yeah.
You create a silly fix to fix that non-problem, raise taxes and pretend that it will fix that imaginary problem, and now we have the fallout of the lack of beef production because those policies are preventing beef from being produced as much. Now they blame President Trump for the rising prices for that, and that's just typical left-wing agenda.
Yeah, it is.
So,
thank
all
you.
right, you have a good day.
Thank you for the comment here today. And just on that topic as well, SlayNews.com just has a story this week on Governor DeSantis of Florida, who's raising the alarm after he uncovered a chilling globalist plot to spread a fatal meat allergy among the general public to supposedly fight climate change. DeSantis has denounced what he calls a deranged global agenda to genetically engineer people to develop a red meat allergy. The Republican governor linked the plan to the World Economic Forum and United Nations. His comments came after resurfaced footage showed a New York University bioethicist proposing that humans could be intentionally engineered to become allergic to meat to reduce consumption and fight climate change. So what our caller was saying is true. 2016, the video of the director of the NYU Center for Bioethics told a live audience there's this thing called the Lone Star tick, where if it bites you, you become allergic to meat. So that's something we can do through human engineering. Let's go next to Mark in Monroe, Wisconsin. Mark, you're on the air.
Hey, Jim. My comment is on the New York City mayoral race.
Yeah.
I think, in my opinion, Curtis Lewa would be the best candidate. I think Cuomo has a failed mission from the past, especially because of the COVID and putting elderly people in death camps, to put it lightly. And getting to Mamdani, I think he's a springboard, if he were to be elected, to get Sharia into the system. And I think if he does, I think he'll form an interesting alliance with the UN that would boost both Islam and globalism into the system. And in order to push, I believe, the end game would be death to America and Israel at the same time for their demise.
Well, he's another one that said he would arrest the Prime Minister of Israel if he would come into New York City. Also, there is no doubt. I mean, he's appearing with a co-conspirator of one involved in bringing down the troubling situations in New York City with the advancement of Islam and just standing shoulder to shoulder. He will not condemn the calling for a global intifada. The cause of Islam would be greatly, in my opinion, advanced under his administration.
Well, one more thing, Jim. Even if he were to be elected, I don't see. I mean, how is something like that? How would he honor holding his obligation to the Constitution? I mean, to me, that's just outright obvious that he's enemy to a domestic enemy to the U.S.
Yeah, probably in the same way Ilhan Omar and Keith Ellison and numerous others.
Yep.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Jim in Milwaukee, you're on the air.
Yes, I was. Since government shutdown, you can't call the comment line to leave a comment to the president. Right. How do you get a hold of the president to leave a comment, especially to leave Israel do what they want with, annexing, the West Bank or whatever they want, But how do we get a hold of the president now to?
I don't know. They've shut down the comment line, so I don't have an answer for that other than to be in touch with your own elected officials, your senator and congressmen, and use them as a channel to get a message through.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We all got to be praying for the president to wake up on this. All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Jim. And our final call in Arkansas. Alice, you're on the air.
Thank you so much for taking my call. I want to go on your opening that hope is what we need. But the Bible says that if we have confidence in God, if our heart does not condemn us, I can't help but think about, I'm old, just turned 80, Tuesday the 21st. And when I was in high school, we read about Jonathan Edwards in Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. Oh, that people would fear God so they would get right with God and know his love and joy and peace in their heart. He is our only hope, Jesus Christ and his precious, precious blood.
Indeed. Thank you, Alice. And friends, we thank you for tuning in today. Again, just a little change in our schedule this week, a news roundup day here today. Lord willing, Alex Newman with us tomorrow. It is UN Day tomorrow, and certainly we'll be talking about the United Nations and their targeting of home education around the globe. And we were talking about Islam as well. Germany has been known for their Christmas markets in villages and towns. Several of them are closing it because of the Islam. Security costs are too high this year in order to keep their Christmas market open. Well, Jeremiah 17:7, blessed is the man that trusteth in the Lord, and whose hope the Lord is. Friends, our hope, our peace, our confidence is only in the Lord. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Crosstalk via satellite and the internet from VCY America. Views expressed may or may not be those of this station. For a CD of today's program, send a donation of $6 or more to VCY Tape Ministry, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53208, or download by RSS or podcast from crosstalkamerica.com. And join us again for Crosstalk.